Based on our years of research with tens of thousands of United Way donors and community members, we've identified the three things you shouldn't say. Hi, this is Gary from Perspectives. Your administrative costs are the first thing you should not say. Only 4% of United Way donors research the administrative costs of their United Way. When you talk about administrative costs, it only reinforces the belief that United Ways are nothing more than pass-through organizations. The second thing you should not say are your processes. Your donors and community need to know the results of your work, not the number of hours that volunteers spent or the number of volunteers that worked on your allocation process. When you talk about your processes, it's like telling someone how many gallons of gas you put in your car and how far you drove. People will never know what your processes accomplished or where you drove your car to. Finally, you shouldn't say too much. The best way to increase understanding of what your United Way does is to stop trying to communicate everything about your United Way. Your donors and community do not need to hear about every partner agency, funded program, or workplace campaign. Repeating a limited number of messages is the key to increasing understanding. Remember the rule of seven, which states people need to see or hear something 7 times before it is truly seen and heard. So, what should you say? The best way to communicate what your United Way does is using I-A-R. I stands for issue. You first need to tell your donor what issue or issues you're working on. So, for example, let's say your United Way runs a Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. So, your issue would be early childhood literacy. A stands for actions. Your donor needs to know what actions you're taking to impact your issue. So, in our example, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library is the action you are taking. R stands for results. After you tell your donors what actions you are taking to impact the issue, you need to tell them what the results of that action are. So, for our example, we would say that the results are that 500 children received books. So, here are 3 steps you can use to make your communication more effective and powerful. First, decide what your United Way needs to say by focusing on communicating a handful of essential messages. Use IAR, that's issue, actions, results, for guidance in selecting your messages. Second, stop communicating things you don't need to be communicating, such as your administrative costs and your processes. Third, choose an enforcer. Someone at your United Way needs to be the communication cop who makes sure your board and staff are only communicating your essential messages and that they are not communicating non-essential messages. To learn more about how Perspectives helps United Ways like yours be relevant, sustainable, and impactful every day, visit us at www.focusedperspectives.com.